Hello. I want to go over thesis statements, especially the one that we're going to be working with, which is counter-argument thesis statements, and how we are going to use that to help build paragraphs. So today in class, we were able to go over the paragraph structure. Prior to that, last week, we started working with counter-argument thesis statements. So I just want to do a quick refresher because they're going to help to identify what our topics are in our body paragraphs. So actually, before we get too far into it, I just want to remind you of what the normal structure of a paragraph would be. So we have, and we kind of went over this in class today, but we have the introduction, we have body paragraph number 1, body paragraph number 2, counter argument paragraph, and a conclusion. This is the structure that we're going to use. Normally, what you've probably encountered in the past is an intro, body 1, body 2, body 3, and then conclusion. That's the normal layout of a 5-paragraph essay. So we started off with counter-argument thesis statements. And what we do is we address the other person. We're saying that, yes, we hear your side with the counter-argument. However, because of this reason and this reason, we are right about our idea of social media being either a danger or not a danger. And keeping in mind, our big question that we're answering with our paper is whether or not social media is a danger to teenagers. So I did a sample for us in using the formula. Although X, and X is going to be our counter argument, A and B, therefore Y. So for these two reasons, we should think my way, which is my argument. And I gave examples of each. So although social media, see how I'm using the exact same layout? Although social media has been known for being a place for cyberbullying, there's the other side. That's what the other people would say. My point is, it has allowed for teens to connect with extended family. See how I'm being very specific? It's not just connecting to family, because I have family in my house, right? If I want to connect to them, I don't need a phone. I can put my phone down and start talking to them. So connect to extended family. And then my second reason is going to be up to date on the latest news. After that, for these reasons, social media, and this is where we get the argument, the why. Make sure I highlight that in the correct color. Social media should not be considered a danger to teens. Now, if you were the opposite side, your last sentence would probably sound something similar, but it would be social media should not be should be considered a danger to teens. So depending on which side of the argument you were on, that last sentence is going to be very similar to everyone else in class, but it's going to be on one side or the other. All right, so altogether, although social media has been known for being a place for cyberbullying, it has also allowed for teens to connect to extended family, be up to date on the latest news, and for these reasons, social media should not be considered a danger to teens. Okay, now, since you have that formula in front of you, I want you to see how it breaks down. Our first reason, trying to make sure I have everything there we go. Okay. We're not going to touch the introduction. We're not touching the introduction. We're going directly to body paragraph number 1. And if you take a look, the topic for body paragraph number 1 is going to be A. It should be the fact that it allowed for teens to connect to extended family. So that should be the topic of my very first body paragraph. Your second body paragraph, the topic is going to be B, which is right here, to be updated on latest news. When we get to the counter-argument paragraph, that's where we will talk about the fact that social media has been known for a place of cyberbullying, because that's what the other side thought. So we'll address that counter-argument. But for right now, I just need you to know what the counter-argument thesis statement looks like. I'm hoping all of you have submitted it here so I can adjust them and give you some feedback in a timely manner. Otherwise, you just need to know where all of these items are placed so that we can go about starting to write our very first paragraph. Okay. So if you only need to know about paragraph structure, this is where you would start, actually, because this is counterargument thesis. We finished off the counterargument thesis. We're going to get started writing our very first body paragraph. So this was the document that was provided in class, and we did a quick sample. So paragraph structure is very important. It helps us to organize our thoughts, and I promise you, if you can help a teacher understand your entire essay, they can get from point A to point B and know what you were trying to say, I can guarantee you a good grade. They just want to know that you can successfully communicate your point to them. The first couple of sentences is going to be state your purpose, right? What is the assertion? Before this, you might have known it as a topic sentence. We're going to call it an assertion because I want you to be assertive. I want you to tell me what to think. It tells what the rest of the paragraph is going to be about. Specific example number 1. This is where you give me a very specific example of what you're talking about. So if in our counter argument, let's see, specific example. If my first body paragraph is going to be about how teens were able to connect to extended family, I'm probably going to talk about or say that there is a connection to family members who live in Ireland, or connection to family members that you don't get to see as often. I'm going to be as specific as possible. This is taking me to the example as specifically as possible. Evidence. This is where you're quoting. For our purposes, we're trying to make sure that we know where items are. So when you're writing your paragraph, for now, submit it with evidence, quoted information that you find online or from one of the sources that we had been working with. Next, you explain, translate, or connect a quote, right? For our purposes today, we're going to explain it because you're providing a quote and then you are explaining how it factors in to proving your assertion and then inevitably your thesis. So if I had a quote here, let's say my topic is about how they are able to connect to extended families. I show a piece of evidence that shows that more teenagers are connected to grandparents than ever before, and they use Facebook to do it. That's probably evidence. I will explain it, how that's a phenomenon. Up until this point, if your grandparents had lived far away, you might not have seen them more than 2 or 3 times a year. So this has created a stronger connection. That's me explaining my quote. This might be at least 2 to 3 sentences in the end because explanation takes a little bit more than one. Closing. This last sentence combines your assertion and tells how your assertion helped to prove your thesis, which is what this yellow portion was over here. So if I'm closing and my point was that teens are able to connect to extended family members and that this proves that social media should not be considered a danger to teens. See how we combined those two? Our original thesis, what I want you to know at the end of my paper, to the assertion that I originally started that particular paragraph with. Now, it's one thing to see these itemized in this way. It's another to be able to identify them within someone else's piece of writing. So this is the sample that we did in class today, just in case this is helpful. You were doing sample paragraph 2 independently, and you were hitting submit. So I'll check those over tomorrow in class. But for right now, we read through this sample paragraph and identified all of the elements from the paragraph structure. So within here, let's see, any good horror story will provide suspense for the reader. In The Landlady by Roald Dahl, the suspense is built through foreshadowing. It allows the reader a chance to know what is going to happen next. Dahl uses foreshadowing from the beginning of the story. When Billy first arrives at Bath, the narrator comments on the cold weather, saying, "But the air was deadly cold, and the wind was like a flat blade of ice on his cheeks." The description of the wind makes it sound like a weapon. It helps to create a scary image and foreshadows the danger that is coming soon in the story. Dahl gives the reader an idea of what is to come with his use of foreshadowing. So I want you to notice that while we have state your purpose, your assertion, this is going to tell what the rest of the paragraph is about. You're looking for what it really, like specifics in here. So this first sentence isn't as specific, but if you wanted to highlight it to include it in the assertion, I would not take points off. But if you were going to be very accurate, this would be the assertion. Why? Because it tells me in The Landlady, Dahl helped to build suspense through foreshadowing. It's very clear. I have a clear direction. If I was just using this as my direction, any good horror story will provide suspense for the reader. That's like me giving you a roadmap and only expecting you to find a way to get there by just having monuments. Like if I give you actual streets, actual addresses, you're going to get there better. And this is an address, right? The Landlady. I know what piece. And what am I going to talk about? Foreshadowing. So I have specifics. All right, our next piece is going to be a specific example. Obviously, they're all going to go in order. So it allows the reader a chance to know what is going to happen next. Does that sound specific? No, it doesn't. Dahl used foreshadowing from the beginning of the story. That sounds a little bit more specific. I'm giving you a direction. Let's see if we get any more specific. When Billy arrives in Bath, the narrator comments on the cold weather, saying, and then I go into my quote. Well, I know the quote is evidence. If you chose this sentence to be your specific example, you are absolutely correct. If you included these two sentences, that is correct as well. I'm pretty sure it was red that was next. As you're going through, you're just identifying, you would highlight the first letter, you can click add comment, and identify it as assertion. Oops. There we go, assertion, comment. Over here, we found the specific example, so we add it. Specific example. All right, and then you will do the rest similarly. You're finding the evidence, highlighting it in the correct color, and then making a note of what the item was. Evidence. Next comes the explanation of the evidence, and be careful because they tend to combine a little bit sometimes with the closing sentence. In this scenario, and you can probably see this for yourselves, these two sentences make up the explanation. This explains what the quote means. The description of the wind, I'm going directly into the quote. The description of the wind makes it sound like a weapon. It helps to create a scary image and foreshadows the danger that's coming in the story. So this is going to be my explanation. Oops. There we go. And then finally, of course, my closing sentence. And of course, by the placement, we know that it's there. But it should have all the elements as well. So Dahl gives the reader an idea of what is to come with his use of foreshadowing. I'm reminding the reader of what my thesis was, which was to prove that suspense was built through foreshadowing, right? That we are talking about the ways in which an author builds suspense, and foreshadowing helps to do that. Okay, closing. So this is exactly what you were doing in sample paragraph number 2. You are going to identify all of those elements as best you can, keeping in mind that some sentences may not fit in. They might just be buffer sentences to help explain or help transition to the next part of the paragraph structure. Okay. This overall is the lesson that we did today in class. What you're going to do is take all of those elements, and this goes for all of my classes, but I'm using period 3 today. Social media essay. You're going to go into here and you are formatting the document as best you can in MLA. We've learned that so many times. I have great confidence that all of your documents will be perfectly formatted in MLA. If you're not sure, go back and find that video. Times New Roman, size 12 font, make sure it's double spaced. Last name and page number, insert page number in the top right corner. So format your document in MLA and begin typing. You're writing the body paragraphs first. Now, I explained why in class, so if you're unsure, make sure that you ask me, or ask a neighbor, ask anyone, find out. As we work in this document, do not hit submit yet, okay? I am going to continue to give you feedback and make adjustments to your body paragraphs. We will not hit submit until we have all of the paragraphs done in this one document. Make sure that you're only using this document so that I can keep coming back to it and making comments and checking your progress during this entire experience. Okay, questions, comments, concerns, shoot me an email, message me on Remind. Otherwise, I wish you the best. Writing is one of the most valuable skills I could possibly teach you. So don't give up, keep with it, know that I am here to help. All right, have a good day.